welcome to CTT in Action for July. This session is called Transform Lives and Organizations with BVC's Leadership Tools. This is actually much more about stories of transformation and frameworks for transformation rather than the tools themselves. That's where we're starting with this. And my co-presenter is Tor. Good morning, Tor.
Hi there. Welcome, everybody. And this sounded like you had a... I'm getting somebody who's trying to Skype me right this moment, which is
are you?
annoying.
Okay.
But anyhow, anyway, I am very, very happy to be able to welcome Elena. And I hope I say this right now, Mesesan, from IBM in Romania. And you like to be called Lili. So Lili is the name that we are going to use going forward. And then also, of course, Patrik Somers-Stephenson. Thank you for joining us at this CTT in Action webinar as well. And you will be the ones driving this or sharing your story together. What I would like to say is that you have a possibility to ask questions during the seminar for those of you who are here the first time. And that will be done in the Q&A button, which you find if you take your cursor on top of your screen, and then there will be a control bar coming up at the bottom where you see there's Q&A button. And there's also a chat button if you have things that you would like to have questions or something like that. But otherwise, we collect all the questions, and we will start by having the presentation start with about 40 minutes approximately. And then we have about 15 to 20 minutes for questions at the end. And Phil and I will guard all the questions that comes in. So don't wait. And if it's something that actually needs to be getting clarified, we may interrupt the presentation. Otherwise, we ask Lili and Patrik to do the whole full presentation. Anything that you like to add, Phil, to that?
No, I think that's it. So as Tor said, please use the question area for the questions and the comment area or the chat area for the comments. And we're going to move on so that we can give as much time as possible to Lili and Patrik. So really happy that Lili and Patrik are both here to join us. Lili and Patrik are going to be talking about, firstly, Lili's experience of the work, and Patrik as a guide and coach and mentor of this. He'll be sharing his experience as well and work on evolutionary coaching. But we just wanted to remind you that since we're not talking about the assessments, if Lili and Patrik or Tor and I talk about some of these words, let's go back to the previous slide, please. There are some, we might be using the words like PVA for personal values assessment or IVA for individual values assessment. So these are all the various tools that we have within the Barrett kit bag for leadership development. Some of these are available as part of evolutionary coaching, which Patrik will be talking about, and there's one that isn't, the leadership team values assessment. But apart from that, just wanted to let you know that, or remind you, because most of you know all of this already, that these are the leadership tools that we have available. And before I hand over to Patrik, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's written all their greetings in here, and it's wonderful for everybody that's joining. So Patrik, I'm going to hand to you for...
Just a second as well. In case that you are wondering, all the slides and the whole full recording will be posted after the meeting. So that is something that you should know, that's going to be so.
Good. Yeah. Patrik, over to you.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Tor. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this webinar. And hello, Lili. Thank you for having you here. So it's special that we can present this webinar together. I had Lili on an evolutionary coaching course more than 2 years ago, and we kept in touch, and it's beautiful to see how she grew and evolved in these 2 years from project manager to now culture transformation manager at IBM in Bucharest, IBM CIC. So I'm happy to give the word to her that she can share her beautiful story with us. Lili, hello.
Hello, Patrik. Thank you very much for the wonderful introduction. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Tor, for inviting us both into this webinar. I am very glad to be part of it, and thank you to all the participants who are here with us today. I would like to start by introducing myself through my values, because these are actually those which are bringing us together. So my first PVA from 2017 looked like this. As you can see, my focus, my attention was mostly on levels 4, 5, 6, and 7, with values such as coaching and mentoring, compassion, continuous learning, dialogue, humor and fun, making a difference, personal fulfillment, personal growth, trust, and wisdom. This didn't change too much next year. As you can see from my PVA from the last year, these are quite similar with just a few differences. For example, at the level 6, instead of dialogue, my focus went more on the leadership area. However, these are the things now. This is my PVA completed a few months ago, with a focus more on finding meaning in existence, and most of the values concentrated at level 5. I wanted to make this introduction, but I'll briefly go to my personal journey and highlight a few of my experiences which made my way the way it is. So my path to creating a meaningful life started actually back in 2015. My conscious searchings in this area actually started in January, when I was in Sri Lanka. Wonderful weather. I was on vacation. I am from Romania, but spending the New Year's Eve in Sri Lanka. And at that time, I found myself asking about my life, about what will I do next when I get back in Romania, what my next steps will be, both in my personal and my professional life. I felt some struggle in my life at that moment, and hopefully the first answers came. Initially with Mind Learners. This was a program, Mind Coaching Transformational School. It was really powerful and transformational learning experience to me. When I got in touch with myself, and when I made the first steps towards coaching, actually. So I've started this program in February and finished it in July 2015. And somehow I believe that these were my first steps to the life that I am living now. So a few months ago, I met my husband, my future husband, and he really is the love of my life. We share a lot of values. We have a lot of fun. We travel the world. So 1 year later, we got married. As I was mentioning, I have started this journey towards coaching, and I continued with this as well. After completed all my requirements from the ICF, I've took my certification and continued to act as a coach in my organization as well. And 1 year later, through my learners somehow, through Alice, a dear friend of mine, I heard about evolutionary coaching. I talked to Alice. She was so excited about Patrik and about his work, and she told me about him coming to Romania that year. It didn't take me much to enroll to this program, and this is how I met Patrik. A person who really changed my life in a sense that Patrik became from my trainer, let's say, also a dear friend, a coach, a mentor, and I'm really grateful to you, Patrik, and for our collaboration since then. And I know this is for a lifetime. To continue, a few time after completing the evolutionary coaching program, I had more courage to follow my passion about coaching, and I've started the coaching community of practice in my organization. And speaking about the organization, I wanted to understand more how I could have an impact, a bigger impact, how I can make a difference in my organization. And this is how 1 year later, finding that Patrik will deliver another training in Romania, I of course enrolled to it, the CTT practitioner training, when I learned about the tools that I could use more in my organization and how I could progress, not just working with individuals, but working with the leaders of my organization in order for our evolution as an organization. Further on, this year, I wanted to mention another special moment to me when I met Richard. Richard was in Romania to deliver a master class for about finding well-being and fulfillment. So I had the privilege to meet him in March this year, and I'm not sure if all of you met him in person. For me, it was really magical to meet him, to talk to him, to hear from him that he sees me, and to have him near me during this adventure within the program, but taking a lot of this experience with me for the future. So I wanted to mention this here because he is an inspiration to me, and because the way I feel and the energy that he gives to me and to the participants into this program is something really precious to me and something that I want to give forward. And speaking about giving forward, I just mentioned here the culture transformation movement, which has just started in Romania, and I'll provide some more details later on about this. But now, just a few points about my takeaways from the evolutionary coaching program. There are a lot, and I thought I thought what should I select to present here. However, I concentrated this on 5 areas which are aligned with the requirements for the evolutionary leaders, and which are really meaningful to me as well. So first, about learning. Learning to me, after completing this program, is about becoming more fully who I am. And by this, I am referring to leading a values and a purpose-driven life. And it is also about mastering my personal dynamics so that I can operate from a full spectrum perspective. And for the first point, I would mention that lately I have several questions that I ask myself almost each day, which are helping me to enable this kind of way of living. I mean, I am asking myself each day what I am learning from the experiences which I am living, and also about the energy, what kind of energy I am feeling, what kind of energy I am transmitting, and this is somehow the way I evaluate where I am and where I'm going. In regards to the mastering the personal dynamics, this is an area where I still have a lot of work to do. I can see the progress, but I can see also the work that I still need to do. For example, this webinar today, it brought me a lot of joy, and I am grateful to be here, to be part of it. In the meantime, I noticed a lot of struggle from myself because maybe my ego got activated, and I thought, what should I share with you here today? what would you say? I thought maybe this is not good enough. My initial version of the presentation was a lot about the outcomes, the deliverables, the roles, and so on. A lot of focus on what rather than on how I do the things or why I do the things. And I wanted to share this with you because here is who I am, and this is a process, and I am still learning. Going to the next area, it's about the adaptability, and the way I see it is really linked to getting into the flow. For me, being adaptable and acting from this state of flow is key. And getting into the flow, I learned this and how to do it in various programs that I've completed by exercising, but this course, Evolutionary program delivered by Patrik, had a really special place to me in learning me how to do it. And as it is mentioned here, it is about sticking to my values. It is about the balcony perspective, which Patrik showed me as well as to the other participants into the course. I can remember even today, and I am exercising this perspective when I am too much involved in different things, to just breathe and take a step back and go to the balcony and look of those things which are in front of me. To be easy with uncertainty, I am still learning this, and I know it is a process, and I can see the progress if it's to compare what was how was the things for me some time ago. It is about follow my passion, and this is very related to coaching, to self-coaching. And here I would like to share again a story, an example. I briefly touched it. It is about the coaching community of practice in Romania. I have started this almost 3 years ago now. And in the beginning, it was just about my passion. I mean, it was a lot of uncertainty in regards to what will happen with this community. It was a volunteering initiative. There wasn't too much focus on this area, or I didn't see it at that time. There is a global community of coaching practice in IBM globally, initiated from the US. But I felt like we need something here customized for my colleagues, for our teams and individuals in Romania. So it started very small with just 3-4 people linked to this passion. And my decision at that time was to focus on what my values were and are, how I can connect with the people who have the same interests as me, and how we can contribute in developing this initiative in Romania. So it was a mix of values, of present, of contribution and passion. And now this community is really growing. We are over 100 active members. So we are having various events, meetings, coaching sessions, and it's wonderful to see how this is evolving and the feedback received from the people who are gathering under this umbrella. Okay, going to the next area about managing complexity. For me, this is really linked about how I make the decisions. So my purpose is to be more aligned with my values and to take decision values-based. also to use more my intuition and my inspiration when it's about taking decisions. So far, this works quite well, and whenever I have doubts, I come back to my values. I come back to that voice in myself, which is whispering what I need to do next. The next area, ability to cope, and this is linked for me with my motivations, and something is missing from the slide is about cooperating with others. So yes, what motivates me is to have this alignment between my ego needs and my soul needs, to live my values, and if in 2017 I was able to easily identify them and put a finger on them, I realized later that I didn't live my values fully. So what I am focusing now on is to live this in practice, and as I mentioned, to cooperate with others and to bring this energy, this fulfilling this fulfillment in my life and in other people's life as well. And with cooperation, I would make the step towards collaboration, because leadership and evolution is about this as well. And for me, this is related to evolutionary leadership. So to find and cooperate people, groups, and teams who share my values and purpose, and by this cooperation to have a contribution in the world. I am very excited and glad to say that I meet amazing people almost each day with whom I find common purposes. I was just thinking to give you an example here. So there is a colleague in IBM Slovakia who recently contacted me, being interested in building up a coaching community there as well. And we are currently working together. She might get to complete to be part of the next evolutionary program, which will be held in Romania in August, together with Patrik. So another example of how the things are just evolving, and how we can grow together and build up together not just relevant programs, but meaningful experience for our evolution. I mentioned here understanding the culture dynamics of teams and organizations, because is an area where I am really interested in. In my role as a culture transformation manager, I am really interested in getting this understanding. Just briefly, I want to mention that what I've learned in evolutionary coaching and later on within the CTT program helps me a lot in this understanding and in applying what I've learned. For example, this movement in IBM Romania started with a culture assessment tool applied for the leadership team. We had some workshops last year. Actually, in November, we've applied the CVA, and based on the results, we decided to focus on the most relevant values that appeared as being important for them. So mostly the programs we are developing now are concentrated, are centered on the three main values, which are coaching and mentoring, leadership development, and employee recognition. And
Lili, you
yes,
wanted a
Phil?
reminder for your time.
Yeah.
So another 2 minutes or so would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for the reminder, Phil. I'll end my story now. Then we have the Q&A session, and I can add there any details if you are interested. So my interest in this collaboration area and my work is really focused on contributing to the evolution of my organization, while also having fun traveling to the world and trying to stick to these three important things in my life: self-expression, connection, and collaboration, making an impact. And this would be it from my side at this moment. Patrik, over to you now. Thank you.
Thank you, Lili. What a beautiful story. I am, I'm happy to continue and to talk about evolutionary coaching as, how do we transform lives and organizations with the tools that we use and with the model in evolutionary coaching. I'm at the moment in Jakarta, Indonesia. It's here 5:30 in the afternoon, and we finished today the second day of evolutionary coaching. So I went to my room, but the group is still in the meeting room also watching the webinar. Evolutionary coaching, yeah. The next slide, please. Well, Richard launched the book Evolutionary Coaching in 2014. I wanted to find a way to know everything about this because I felt with the extra layer of psychological development, the stages, this was so powerful for me. And what I did is I started translating the book in Dutch, my native language. And translating that book was such a deep experience. It was like translating my life and reading in each chapter parts of my childhood. And so
Patrik, we have a request for you to talk a little louder. Can you just move your headset microphone closer to your mouth, and that should do it?
Okay. Yep.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. So Richard said, fine, do it. And Thor and Phil, it's interesting, and I'm grateful to have this webinar with the two of you because it was Phil's idea to make this an accreditation program. And it was Thor who became my mentor and helped me to create a program, a values-based psychological framework that we offer looking at the ego-soul dynamics. Yeah, next slide, please. It's not a coaching course. It is a course for coaches who want to have an additional tool, or it is for leaders, consultants who want to have a more coaching presence and know more about the ego-soul dynamics in growth and development. Whereas CTT is focused on whole system change, in evolution coaching, we focus on the ego-soul dynamics. And that's what I heard also Lili mentioning, the ego-soul alignment. And with the next slide, we see the main points and where that comes in. So what we see there, we grow in stages of psychological development. We operate at levels of consciousness and we live inside worldviews. And so we walk 3 times through it and we see what's the impact. Where are we? And how is it moving on? Primary motivations is where we are in our life and we try to get our needs met. Secondary motivations are the stage that we passed and all the unmet needs that are still there and they're holding us back from living our purpose and fulfilling our potential. And they take us away from the ego, from the alignment ego-soul. We talked this morning about the evolution of decision-making. It's interesting that you mentioned that also, Lili. So the values-based decision-making, where we see that if you are based on beliefs for your decision-making, that comes from the past. If you have the courage to let go your beliefs and to move towards the future and make decisions based on your values, that's so powerful. That opens a world of opportunities for the future. And values-based leadership is exactly that we have the courage that we guide our behavior and process of decision-making, or that we let it being guided by our values. We use the LDR feedback also to look at where are we with our primary motivations, what are the fears in our system, the secondary motivations. And I like what Lili says there, it's all about the energy. We look at the energy with what is the intention and what is the impact. If the intention is always getting your needs met. That's what motivates people all the time. And the impact, well, if we do this from a place of fear with positive values, then we see as impact connection. When we do this from a place of fear with potentially limiting values, we see how we create separation. It's also about, what is it? About all the values in a healthy way, healthy boundaries. So a lot of people see their values at levels 4, 5, 6, 7, beautiful. Not too many values at level 1, 2, 3, which is fine, but there's nothing wrong with 1, 2, 3 because these are our basic needs and we need to have them met, our needs. Yeah. But what we saw today, for instance, is the continuous learning level 4. It's a beautiful one. And it's in the place of transformation, it's level 4, freedom. But if there is an excessive focus on continuous learning, and if you keep on learning and you're very attached to it, then it might be a compensation for the level 3 issues that you have about not being good enough, you see? Or you mentioned adaptability, Lili, flexibility, also level 4. But if there is too much flexibility and too much adaptability, and there are issues at level 2 about being light and conflict avoidance, then you see how the fear in your system is holding you back from being free of living your value with boundaries. And that's the beauty of this model, that we look at it and that we see, okay, where are we okay and where do we feel that there is still space to grow? And that's what we look at all the time. The next slide, please. We use the assessments in the training, and I integrated in the training program a film with the permission of the director, a Swedish film. Director was happy that we use it as it is in heaven. So that means that the IVA that we use is from the conductor of the film. So if people watch the film and they know the character and they see then the IVA, they see the personal values and the current desired culture from the film, then they can recognize the results in the story, and that helps them to have a deeper understanding of how the tools work. We use the IVA also for what we call in the book cultural compatibility. That means that, yeah, we live in 4 cultures, as Richard in the book, Evolutionary Coaching. First culture is family, then we have community, society, and organization. And cultural compatibility means that if the culture we live in is at a higher level than we are, then we can learn and grow, and there's space to grow. If the culture of the organization is at a lower level than where we are in our stages of growth, and there is a toxic energy in the environment, then we don't feel so inspired. It's like we are limited by the toxic energy in the system. Community, yeah, it's easy to move. Society, you can move from one country to another, but every society has cultural conditioning. Organizational, and that's what you see here, current culture, very often lower than the personal values. And people dream of a desired culture with higher values, yeah. But the most difficult one is the family system, parental programming, as it is mentioned in the book. We need to find a way to find, what is it? Letting go the parental programming, letting go what I experience as the biggest obstacle in personal transformation is almost a loyalty to the parents. Loyalty to the parents. Letting go which doesn't belong to you and what doesn't help you, doesn't serve you to move forward in your life. That's how we call it. The next slide, please. So if people ask me to present myself, then I use these 3 values. And if people ask, what is it that I should do to be an evolutionary coach if I am not a professional coach, then I say, well, presence, silence, and questions. These are the 3 values that can help you to come to a coaching presence so that you can explore what's going on, that you can connect with people and start a dialogue, but a dialogue from a place of silence where you ask questions, where you can honor in the space between the 2 of you or in the space of the group what happens and what can grow, and where there is space for new insights and where you can create almost an internal cohesion if you find the same purpose and meaning. And that's where you can make a difference, and that's where you can start sharing and having an impact on people. Presence, silence, and questions. Yeah. Lili? The next slide. Yeah. So I ask people to read the book in advance. And the reason why is that I use in the training what we call collective intelligence. It's not just me teaching what's all in the book. People read the book, they have their own expertise and experience in life, and we bring it all together so that the model becomes something alive. And if people ask them, why should I go to the course if I can read the book? I say, yeah. And it's with the metaphor that Phil and Thor gave me in, I think it was Toronto at the conference. So reading Richard's book is like getting your feet wet. It's the first time that you feel the water, but it's only getting your feet wet. If you start doing the exercises in the book, then it's indeed like snorkeling. You see much more under the water, but it's still at the surface. But every time again, what I experience in the course is that when people come together and share their experiences, then it's like taking a deep dive, scuba diving into your personal life and see how can I explore that field of personal transformation? How can I move beyond that tipping point? Yeah. Yeah. Next slide. Beyond evolutionary coaching. What do I do in this course as a facilitator? I see myself creating and holding a safe space where people feel at home, where people can open their hearts, and where magic happens because of the space we create for this. And it's about evolutionary coaching, it's about the experience of people. And another book came into the course at the moment that people asked, yeah, and are there more tools? Is there more that you can get out of the book? We want more examples, exercises. Richard uses in his book, What My Soul Me, the 4 steps of soul activation, which is connecting with your soul, befriending your soul, trusting your soul, and becoming one with your soul. And what came to me is, rather than letting go your fears, it's more in life about letting go your attachment to the fears and not resisting your fear, but finding a way to reintegrate your fears. And so the 4 steps of soul activation became for me the 4 steps of fear reintegration. And it's an invitation to look at your fears and to connect with them, befriend your fears, to trust your fears and to become one with your fears, so that you experience that the whole process of transformation is a process of healing to wholeness, and your fear is part of it. Your fear has served you and helped you to survive, and now you want it to be part of it, but you are, as a personal master of your life, in charge of your life. You're sitting in the driver's seat of the car of your life, and your fear is part of it, but your fear is not taking over the control and driving with you. Yeah. Next one. What's the takeaway? What is the key? The key for me to transform lives and organizations with tools like evolutionary coaching, for me, it's all about where are you as a coach, where are you as a leader in your personal process. Richard says literally, if you want to take people on a journey to a place they've never been before, it is important that you find out as much as possible about the territory before you depart. If you want to do exercises with your clients, do them first yourself. But if you want to create a space where people feel safe and where they can transform, be a role model, be an inspiring role model of transformation. And that means look at your inner space, do your work, and the more you can expand your inner space, the more it will be reflected in the space around you that will expand, and where you can, hold a field for people where the magic happens, because that's transformation. That's making it possible that magic happens. And that's what I see with evolutionary coaching. And that makes me feel so blessed and privileged to connect with people and to collaborate and contribute like that. Is there another slide, or is this the last one? Q&A. Look at this.
Thank you, Patrik. Thank you, Lili. We have had some questions and also some remarks that has come in during the presentation. And I start with you, Lili. There is a person that I think that you may know, Romana Palkus. Is that somebody who you recognize? Because I have learned a lot this year from you, Lili, is what Romana is writing. So you may know that just a recognition.
Yes. We are working together. Thanks, Romana.
You're working. Yeah. And then Sander Naupal is actually giving you recognition as well. He says, this is an inspiring, and thank you for sharing your personal journey. So that could be, so you don't miss those things. And then I think if there is anything else that we should say before we go into reading out the questions, Phil, that we should think of.
No, I'm good. I mean, there's a couple of ideas I'd like to explore once we've gone through these questions, but we'll see how we do for time with that. So I'm happy. Let's kick off with some of the questions. And if any of you have any more questions, then please type them into the question and answer area now, and we'll handle as many as we can. And if we can't, then we'll get those answered afterwards.
So I'm continuing with Sander here, who's curious to understand.
So actually, if you could, Lili, could you stop sharing your screen now? Then our videos will go larger, and it's people can see as you're responding, and you and Patrik respond.
So
okay,
Sander was saying, curious to understand, what did you mean by not living your values? Can you help share some examples on how have things changed? In other words, how are you living the values in the same context? That's the question.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for the question. I think there are a lot of examples, but I can take a simple one from the job context about being enthusiastic, about fun. There is not all the time the proper space to have more fun in the office, but at some point I was just being able to live this value of mine just in my team, but not at a higher level. For example, in more extended meetings, for example, I was just trying to hide because I didn't feel necessarily at my best, and I didn't express my thoughts all the time. But now I am just the person who I am, and I'm not afraid to make a joke or to have fun, even in this more serious context, of course, depending if it is the case. I am not saying that we want to transform this into a circus. But what I want to say is that I accept who I am, and the fact that values like enthusiasm, that fun, can have their place in the office as well. And I am living this each day.
Thank you, Lili.
Yeah.
I hope that Sander is happy with that answer. He could then confirm or not if he wants to expand. So we move on to the next one. Do you take that one, John?
Yeah. Okay. So this is from John Buckland. Thank you, John. It says, in government and civil service, the mantra is currently evidence-based decision-making. Have you been able to bring values-based decision-making to the fore and overcome this prevalent view? So I think this is really the mix between the scientific view of where's the evidence that proves that we should make this decision versus what are the values that guide us, and where are you in your organization and yourself in that part between evidence-based decision-making and values-based decision-making?
Well, more recently there are a lot of researches which are demonstrating that focusing on people and on relationships are really key in order to have success in the business field. Therefore, somehow these are correlated. And what I've started from the feedback that I've already had through. Followed by concrete actions based on this type of feedback. So to give you a concrete example, the LDR which we currently use in our endorsement process for the new appointed first line managers in our organization. This was just an idea which I brought to the HR last year because based on the feedback from the people, we were all agreeing that we want to have in our organization managers who live their values, managers who are listening, managers who are close to their people, and so on. And even if there weren't, of course, there are researches, but I didn't have at that time other concrete evidences rather than the feedback, the results from the employees' pulse surveys and things like this. However, I linked the outcome from the LDR that we could use in our organization with the outcome which is requested by our people. And the top management agreed for us to implement, to incorporate this kind of assessment into our work and use this type of assessment when selecting the people who will become the next managers in our organization.
Fine. So it really sounds like you have a clear intention to support people in making values-based decisions by the way that you're assessing them and guiding them and supporting them.
Thank you for summarizing this. Yeah.
Patrik, you had
Yeah. So evidence-based decision-making, yeah. If you need evidence, if you need numbers, if it has to be proved, then we are at level 1, level 3, and that's where you want to make them decisions. What we see in the most important values that people choose in the personal values assessments, what Richard calls the values of humanity, is level 2 and level 5, relationships and internal cohesion. What we see is the most healthy leaders, observed values from assessors, focus on level 2 and level 5. So if evidence is purely based on the numbers and the facts, and we need to see before we can believe it, that's very into level 1, 2, and 3, and that's very into self-interest. my evidence, what I see is that the majority of the people is still focused on these levels and is struggling to survive for the basic needs being met. And my evidence says that people are not born to survive. People are born to thrive. And if I hear Lili talking about living her values, she always uses values from level 5. Creativity, passion, humor, fun. So that's what people are yearning for. And the more they can be in that place, the easier it is to make your decision based on values. So it's making that shift from fear to trust in the basic needs so that you create space for values-based decision-making, which is beautiful. And then you see a different energy coming up on the work floor and in the connection with people, in the relationships.
Thank you.
Thank you,
You got
Patrik.
some recognition for that in the feedback here as well, Patrik. I think I continue. We take them in the order they are coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is for you, Patrik. Hi, Patrik. I see that the LDR comes into the evolutionary coaching process. Does the LVA product play a part in this?
Interesting.
This was Tim Willard, by the way.
Hi, Tim. So the LVA, what I do in the course is I explain the difference between an LVN and LDR. And the reality is that a lot of people know about LDR and have experience with LDR, and only few people have experience with LVA. And to be very honest, I also had my very first experience with an LVA a few months ago because of my work with Barrett around the redesign of the curriculum of CTT. And it's beautiful. And because it's so beautiful, the LVA, I also explain the difference with just self and observed values and 3 open questions, rather than in LDR, it's all in more closed questions, but also in the LDR, the beauty there where you see in the requested values almost the space to grow and you see a full potential there, and it's an invitation to grow and to move forward, to realize your potential. The LVA has a slightly different accent, and I explain it in the course, but we don't use it as a practice. We don't practice it. That's the answer to
Good.
Thank you, Patrik.
So let's go to a question from Yogita, and this is for you, Lili. So thank you for sharing. You mentioned that you're in the role of cultural transformation manager. Can you say what do you personally believe is the most important thing for transforming the culture of an organization? What's the most important thing?
Thanks for the question. Really interesting question. As Richard says and Patrik says, in order for an organization to change, it is requested for the leadership to change, so that the change starts with the leaders. You asked for my personal opinion, and I would say that the transformation starts with each of us. I truly believe that any of us can contribute to such a transformation, and each of us have the ability to do it. It's just about living our values and find our way to contribute.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
And there was another part to the question. I'll read it as it is, but I think this is, what is the thing that is impossible to change in culture?
What does impossible mean?
Okay.
That's not a good answer.
Good. Okay.
You might want to connect with Yogita and talk to her about that.
Yeah. So, Patrik, do you want to say something?
Yeah, it is impossible to change other people. What you can do is you can see that you work on yourself and that you are an inspiring role model for the transformation you want to see in your organization, and you can create a space and invite people to be part of the process. But it's impossible to make them be part of the process. It can only be the invitation, and they will join when they're ready for it. But you can't change other people. That's impossible for me.
Okay. That is such an important insight, because we often get calls to say, how do I make this organization do this? How do I make this leadership team do this? And actually the answer is sometimes you need to walk away, or you need to leave them until they're ready. Because as you just said, Patrik, it's impossible to make people do this work. And this work is not easy. It requires a lot of courage and commitment. And so that's a perfect answer.
Then this is an anonymous question, which I have been reading a couple of times to try to understand. But it's how could it be an evolution of leadership in a collective and shared responsibility company or community? Meaning that, how do you have a collective leadership? How could be a collective leadership, a leadership based on a group rather than not on several individuals? So ending with holacracy or leadership, meaning that the leadership that is actually connected. How do you connect the leadership, the individual leadership, to make it act as a group? That's how I see it. Question. And Phil, if you read the question, would you add anything to that?
No, I wouldn't. Yeah.
And I think that question goes to both of you, but I'll start with Lili. If you have any thoughts around, it's more of creating an evolution of collective leadership, holacracy leadership, meaning that leadership that are connected to each other.
So, which is the question, Tor?
Let me say. Let me try and clarify then. That we've talked so far about this leadership development as being a personal journey. Mm-hmm. So once you have people aligned on their personal journeys, how do you align them as a team so that they really work together as a leadership team that's working well?
Let me think about it. I would say what we are doing. I am not an expert in culture transformation, so I've just learned about it, and I have just started this movement, and I am really grateful that I have a lot of people with me in this journey. What we are doing is to organize the work and advance through 2 different channels. So it works like a big greenhouse where there are some change agents who are really believing in this transformation and who are working on bringing this into life, and who are creating a lot of ideas and who are coming with their energy, their passions in order to transform our organization. And then we have the task force management, let's say it, as we called it, an implementation team with whom we are bringing these initiatives to life. So we have formally an executive sponsor who is our main point of contact with the management team, and this is how we work. We create ideas, we put them in place, we plan them, and then go to the task force team in order to implement them.
Thank you. We've got 1 minute left, and I've got one question I want to finish with. So it's a very quick question for you, Lili, just a short answer. So it's saying, I love this approach you're doing. So this is from Slagiana. I love this approach. What moved you in this direction? What was the moment in your life that caused that shifted things for you?
I understand the question is related to this culture transformation work.
Yeah, absolutely. Your own process and culture transformation. What was the moment that shifted things for you?
I think it was, I realized it became conscious during one of my conversations with Patrik. we had one of our calls, and I was sharing with him about our coaching community of practice and what we would like to do, and it came from my passion for seeing people flourishing, and why not doing this at a higher level? This was the point.
Right. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing.
Thank
we
you.
still have some questions that has not been answered, but we will send that to you, Lili and Patrik, and ask you to answer those questions, and we will send that back. It will be in the public material for everyone who's attended, along with the recording of this and also the slides that you shared. And if there are any questions, of course, people are allowed to, I hope and I assume, allowed to connect with you directly as well if they have wanting to have a deeper conversation.
Sure.
And by that, I would like to thank you all, Lili and Patrik, for your sharing. Very enlightening and inspiring. And for everyone who joined us during this meeting. And hope to see you in our next coming meeting of CTT in Action.
Good. So thank you again. As we normally do, I'm going to leave this call open for another couple of minutes while we copy all of the questions and the chat out so that we've got a record of what everybody's said and so that we can respond to you in the right way. But for now...
Stop the recording though.
Yeah, thank you very much. And we look forward to seeing you in our next session next month. We'll be sending an invitation out soon. Okay, thanks again, Lili and Patrik. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yep.